could, at one point, even though it's not done, story map would probably help.
Where's the doc?
Story map?
Good evening. Sorry for being a little late. It's 10 minutes past 6:45. Please call the Committee of the Whole meeting of Tuesday, November 14th to order. And call the roll.
Alderman Strelchak, Alderman Talaco, Alderman Meyer, Alderman Hanchard, Alderman Bach,
Here.
Alderman Parrish,
Here.
Alderman Schneider, here, Alderman Gebhardt,
Here.
and Mayor Nurbin.
Here. First up, we have approval of the meeting minutes from October 10th. Is there any comments or questions, or is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Looking around, hearing and seeing none. All those in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the minutes are approved. First up is a discussion on Town Center TID number 3 project, a public project update. Director Towson and Lundeen will give us a quick overview on what's going on Mequon Road.
Great, thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. We're here to give an update on the construction project in the town center. Staff has been monitoring cost, workmanship, and timing associated with the project. So tonight we want to go over exactly those elements and also acknowledge some additional interest that we've heard from certain council members or just the general public about some of the items, and that we're keeping track of that, and we can get back to those at a later date. We're happy to announce that we are close to substantial completion. There are some remaining items yet in Q4 here of 2023, and there is still the anticipated final completion of June of 2024. What substantial completion for us for Q4 means in terms of what you may not see out there today, but you will see implementation of over the next several weeks, are the pedestrian lights in the new widened terrace areas, paver installation at the intersection locations, and I think some of those are in as we speak. Traffic signal installation at Bunch Rock and Weston. The OIT crossing is open right now, as is the City Hall driveway. We have a number of bollard lights that will be installed. Those bases are in. You just don't see the fixtures yet. Those bollards are located at the OIT crossing as well as along the City Hall driveway. And then there's, of course, a number of punch list items that will continue to work through not only through the end of the year, but as we move towards closure of the project next year. Then what we have remaining for spring is the median lights. So those are about a little bit higher scale in terms of height of those fixtures. Those go throughout the entire medians of the couple blocks there. All of the gateway signage. On my spreadsheet, we indicated that the original signs were not designed to be breakaway at the base. WSDOT, despite several review processes and a lot of conversation with them, have come back to say that those bases do need to be breakaway. We did explore a few different design options on how to make that happen under the current design. I'm not sure we would like the quality of those, so we just decided to not install any, manufacture or install any of the signs yet. I just didn't want to modify a design on one of the gateway signs and find out that it no longer really matches, the other ones that we installed. Landscaping at the base of all of the street trees, as well as the base of the gateway signage, will go in next year. We've got the advanced warning signals for the OIT, and then again, the punch list items. Here's just some images of some of the work that's been accomplished: new and widened sidewalks, replacement of the former cemetery fence, new street trees. There's new decorative signage out there. You'll see where, not the orange barrels, but the orange cones in the terrace areas where you'll see street lights. or pedestrian lights going in, and then as well the landscaping at the base of all of those lights and landscaping at the base of the fence. And I'm sure everyone is happy to note that since this picture was taken, all of those orange barrels are out of the street. Here's another image of the north side streetscape. This is in front of Spur 16 in the Public Safety Building. New and widened crosswalks, again, terrace area, street trees, new signage. We've got the traffic signals pending at this location. Again, the pedestrian lights, and then there will be some added amenities to all of the retaining walls in the town center area as well. Here's a close-up of the paver system installation and some of the street furniture that's peppered throughout the neighborhood. Bunch Rock Avenue, this is, I think, a great picture of the streetscaping that's been implemented by the developer of the P2 project. And then you can see that the sidewalk now extends all the way down to the 2 public schools. In terms of the expenditure status and the contingency, originally we were at a total of about 5.3. We had a 10% contingency built into the project. To date, we've got about a $35,000 overage, and that's in totality across a number of line items. So we're still well within that contingency. And right now, if everything just remained as is, we would come in under budget of about $460,000. I'm sure that number will not be accurate when we come back and talk in June, but that's where we are at as of today. And then in terms of acknowledged interest, I had mentioned the breakaway sign design for the bases. We have heard from some members of the public as well as a few council members about some additional enhancements for the cemetery. Streetlight fixtures, there is an interest that maybe both from a pedestrian light and a median light perspective, that if there were to be some remaining dollars, that we would purchase additional fixtures in the event that we, one of the lights gets run into, that we've got some extra supply and some on hand. And then we still have yet to go through a master banner design. So a lot of the fixtures, the council did choose to get brackets to be able to display banners throughout the year. So we'll be going through that design process over the winter as well. So that's all the comments I have about the status of the project to date, and we're happy to answer any questions or comments that you have.
Turn my mic on. Thank you. Any questions from the committee? I'm sure you all have gotten plenty of questions over the past 6 months as construction's occurred, and it's nice to see a little bit of what was going on. Be really nice when it comes back all fresh and green in the spring. But any comments or concerns from anyone on the committee? Alderman Gephardt.
Just a quick question. Nice job, by the way. The work that has not been completed, is that all on a fixed cost basis for that would get completed in either over the winter or the spring?
For the most part, yes. They're just a continuation of the original bid. There are some exceptions for some information we're waiting to hear from. Perhaps not surprisingly, coordination with many different agencies, including the Office of Commission of Railroads, has resulted in some need for some modifications of the design, for example, to the boring that will go under the railroad. So it's anticipated that there will be a cost impact. We don't know what that is yet for some of those adjustments. And we're waiting for final word from WISDOT on the value for the preemption of the traffic signals, but that shouldn't be in excess of what the contingency was. It's just a matter of if it's less than what it otherwise was indicated to be.
Alderman Parrish.
Yeah, thank you again to staff. This is really a top-notch project, and we're all really proud of it. So it's cool to see it all coming to fruition. Director Tollefson confirmed that the power lines are yet to be buried. I was wondering, why are there so many power lines still up? And I hope we're not done. And sure enough, that's next season, it sounds like. So it's going to be very park-like as desired. I was one of the aldermen inquiring about the cemetery. We've gotten some input from the Historical Society with just some creative suggestions, like an archway. I know when I drive by it, feels like it's somewhat unfinished. Like we've spent a lot of time on a lot of the details for the rest of the town center. Maybe there's a few things we can do to honor the history and maybe provide more of a sense of place. You know, like when you're there in the cemetery, you're not necessarily part of the whole town center. So there's just some things we can do, and I appreciated the mayor and Administrator Jones talking about it. It sounds like the right venue might be through the Parks Board. So I am planning on asking the Parks Board to consider kind of taking the subject up and maybe coming forth with a list of recommendations, you know, in conjunction with members of the public who may have a vested interest in the cemetery, such as the Historical Society, come back with a set of recommendations, I hope. And then obviously there's the source of funding. The impetus for this is how much of this can we get paid for under the TIF if we are going to make alterations. And there's very limited ways we can do that. So just wanted to let you know I was going to be making that request, and maybe you guys have other feedback on the cemetery as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Bach.
I don't have any feedback on the cemetery, but you know, it looks really nice. Have you gotten any initial feedback on the interurban trail connection, or has anybody said anything, or has anybody kind of tested that out, or comments, or you know?
Well, I've spent a lot of time out in the middle of that road, particularly at that crossing, and we do take the opportunity to ask users what they think. And most of the comments have been really positive. I mean, some reactions are like, "What? I don't even know what's different," you know, because they're just so focused on traveling. But yeah, there's been really positive feedback about it. Just feeling like, you know, people are happening to stop more often for them, and you know, liking the sight lines that it provides by being actually parallel with the lanes.
We have heard that it slows people down, and I'm not sure if that's positive feedback or negative feedback, but it was the whole point. So
Yeah.
It's the right feedback. It's neither Any other comments from anyone on the council? Thank you for the update. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
As they alluded to, we'll track a couple of moving items with regard to the railroad and getting the signalization all coordinated and our pedestrian beacons in. That's a late breaking item that just occurred within the last couple of days, so we'll continue to track that ball. But even that, I think, is positive the way it's looking now based off some preliminary feedback. Oh yeah. Is that it for TID 3 public improvements? If so, we'll move on to a resolution item. So resolution 4084, resolution adopting incentive policy for tax increment financial districts number 4 and 5. And who's going to give us the presentation on this? Is this Jack? All right. So as you recall, we've talked about this before. It's been on ice for almost a year. We're bringing it back now for action.
Oh, sorry. So we did add a condition for the residential, to exclude any residential development solely would not be eligible for the TIF. I did clean up the map a little bit, and then I just cleaned up some of the language in the actual policy. So, but anything else of substance has not changed since the last time you saw it. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
All right. Are there any questions? Are we sure there's not a question based off the last committee meeting?
The mayor is addressing me without calling my name, so I'm just going
Oh.
to talk. He's looking right
I
at
know
me. It's a little awkward up here.
I know you want to say something. We had
yeah,
a pretty
yeah.
meaty discussion about this at the last committee meeting.
Thank you. I'm going to tailor my comments and try to be limited. I realize we've had several meetings about this topic. What's interesting is we have something on the agenda later tonight where, you know, if we approve this policy, the item up for discussion will automatically be approved. And the timing is really incidental where we had really a live example to look at as we're approving this fast track tier 1 and tier 2. And I have to say that after seeing the example of what we're doing is there's certain sites at the corners, that would be the Chalet, the Sobelman site, the Ferrante site, the US Bank site, pavilions. Sites like that at the corners, we're saying whether or not you assemble with the neighbors, you would get a 15% incentive, and that's pay as you go over time. And it kind of sounded great philosophically on paper, you know, like, oh yeah, this should spur development. It's taken, you know, development hasn't really taken off on the corridor. And when you actually apply the math to like an example like tonight, it ends up being like approximately $800,000 of essentially tax revenue that we are foregoing. I'm not questioning, I certainly am 100% in favor of the project that's coming forward. I would say that there was some amendments to the motion, which we'll touch on later in the meeting. So I'm not here to try to change what's already been recommended. I'm having some second thoughts. I'm going to be challenged to vote yes on this item. I would much prefer that there be only a 15% incentive in situations where there's assemblage. And I'm now realizing that 15% for corners only, if just the property itself is being redeveloped, I don't find a huge difference between that site versus the site right next door to it that's only getting 5% incentive if they redevelop it. So as I kind of play that out in my head, what I was really hoping for was assemblage and kind of gateway type developments. This is a cute little building at the corner that we're going to be talking about later, and I do think they should get an incentive. It's a challenging market, but 15%, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to support that. So thank you for listening. If no one else feels that way, I don't think there's any amendment to make. I'll just vote no, and we'll be on our way. But I'm certainly in favor of the whole package in general with that one change. Thank you.
Well, I'll follow up and add, I think the original impetus for changing the formula for the TIFs 4 and 5 is we had seen relatively no activity, not zero, but relatively little activity in the TID for the last 10 years. So I think we've amassed a total of 3 projects in a decade using the existing formula. So the idea was to try to enhance it somehow, in some way, for high priority sites, and also I think if it's an assemblage, you could get the higher
Correct.
percentage as well. Assemblage is obviously a little more difficult. You've got to get multiple property owners to agree. But I think I'll just say this, it's been hard to get activity going. It's probably not going to get any easier in a high interest rate environment. If we want to deem more properties high priority due to the condition of the property, we could go back and amend which parcels are considered high priority at almost any time. And maybe that's a better play long term. I don't know if we have to do that tonight because we're rather unprepared to take that challenge on. But that's for those that weren't here a year ago when we first started talking about enhancing our TIF 4 and 5 policy to try to spur more activity, which is a frequent complaint I get about why so much town center, why isn't there more happening on the east side? That's been a very real comment for at least 5 years from people. This was what we came up with collectively over the past year. So we have what we have before us tonight. I know there's probably some sticker shock when you look at what it actually means, but I think the intent was to make it a little sweeter to spur more activity. It just so happens there's one right out of the gate the night we're considering approving it. Any other comments from anyone else? now's a good time
Mayor,
to
I
talk
got-
about the policy. Alderman Stralchuk, virtual round.
Yeah, I'm virtual, so just let me know what a good way to raise my hand here is, and I don't want to interrupt the meeting, flow at any point. I'm going to build on what Alderman Parrish said, and I too am struggling with this a little bit. Coming from Planning Commission where there was some pretty pointed disagreement on the architecture of the building, and then there's funding that could be associated with that building. I want to make sure that architecturally,
Well,
that
can I interrupt? Can I interrupt? We're not
any
talking about the
facility-
incentive. We're talking about the policy. So I want to keep
Um,
this one on point because they're separate issues, although related.
separate issues. Unfortunately, this is the example, right? Architecturally, I want to make sure that we have an approval, and that we make sure that it's architecturally what we want to see. And and some of the things that have come through Planning Commission, just broad brush stroke here for a minute. Bear with me. There's been a couple things that architecturally we've slightly disagreed. The developer simply says that's what I want to build, and then we're kind of stuck with do we want to approve it or not approve it? And those are projects that are not usually associated with TIF funding, right? When it's TIF funding we're not giving them the money. It's a delay in collecting the money, correct? Because they are being taxed at the current rate.
We will take
It's
this.
pay as you
We
go.
will take this specific issue up at council. This is just the TIF formula and the policy, not the authorization of that project. So I
I agree, and I'm
just have
getting
to-
there.
We
Trust
constrain
me.
the conversation to the topic at hand. I'm sorry to interrupt, but we're getting a
Yeah.
little off topic. It's not on this agenda. It is on the
Okay.
next one.
So going back to what Alderman Parrish has to say with the 15% and being that these are corner buildings and they're high priority buildings, based on the anchor tenant building, policy, anchor tenants bring other businesses in around them because something was developed. The Town Center MTC1 was developed, and then Spur 16 and the city's investment in that, and that's what spurred the excitement for the rest of Town Center to take off as quickly as it did. So just in general, the 15% to me is a little bit more than I'm comfortable with as well, in general, if they're not assembling sites. And I mirror what Alderman Parrish says, that, right next door, they get 5%, another one would get 15%. So I do, and I will be voting no for this tonight, just on that premise alone. The reason I'm voting no is I prefer to see a little bit more policy come forward to talk about, what an anchor tenant means to this area and what we can do to actually bring in some more business. And if there would be a qualification process to get an additional percent. Again, we don't want to pick winners and losers. We discussed that in the previous meeting, and I apologize to the applicant for, of a different project for using them as an example to discuss this, but it just highlights a couple things that make it hard. When we approve something like this and there's tax incremental funding for a building that somebody may or may not want to see, the public gets up in arms and they say, hey, we gave money for this. I want to make sure that we're very clear about what the policy is, why we did what we did, and be able to spell this forward. And I think we're almost there, but I'd like to see just a little bit more policy on what it means to be an incremented use, to bring in more business to the area and to improve the area the way that the city wants to see it approved.
I guess I'll speak to that. I think the Economic Development Board's idea with the high priority sites was not necessarily as a spur for other sites. They looked at locations and conditions of existing structures and buildings and deemed them to be high priority because of their location or their condition. So I don't think it really meant to spur on other development other than just improving the general look of the area. And I think, in this case, and it's hard to segregate the policy from the next application, but with that application, it is working. We are getting a new building on a corner of a property that is getting tired and needs to be repaired or replaced. So the policy itself is working, it's giving the incentive to do that. I guess if the council's concerned about architecture or design, that's something they could add as a condition of the individual incentive, saying that the commission should not waver from our standards in any sense, or make sure that we get the product we're looking for. But in terms of the policy itself, I think it's doing what the intent of the Economic Development Board wanted, was to focus on those sites if it was not a combination.
I think we really have to separate the two. One is just the policy, one is exercising an individual development agreement to get an incentive. I guess that's why
Agreed.
we've had these meetings, where we had one last month to provide some feedback. That would have been an excellent time to have some additional guardrails. It's been sitting on the shelves for about a year, where we talked about it in substantively the same form a year ago. We've gone a year with little feedback. So it's a little frustrating to get to this point and have people have a little bit of remorse over what they've done, but maybe seeing the numbers is what made people think of it. But I think if we don't change the policy and enhance it in some way, no one should complain about not getting it used more. And that's something I think most of us have been concerned about at some point. And I know members of the public at large have made comments, why isn't more happening on Port Washington Road? We've had a TIF for 10 years and relatively little has changed. If we want other sites to be considered high priority due to their condition, we can certainly review that at any time and make a tweak to those locations we think are higher priorities. But the product coming out of Economic Development Board was what was recommended, and no one really challenged those suggestions at the time. It's only after there's a project finally in front of us. I'll stop for now. Is there another comment or a motion, perhaps? Alderman Talaco.
I'm just seeking clarification because I don't quite understand why. How did the 15% incentive come about over the 5%?
Well, as I described before, we weren't getting a lot of takers at the 5%. So we
had the original
Jack, take it over. I think Jack's got a
the
very
original
thorough explanation.
TIF project plan stated 5% or 10% for a combination. So there was a criteria in the current TIF project plan that says if you combine parcels, you get a 10%. And as the mayor stated, for the last 10 years, especially in the northern TIF, there's been no takers on that. So the Economic Development Board said we should incentivize it even further. So they wanted to go up to 15%. So that's where the jump became from 10 to 15. So the sites that combine properties used to be 10, now they're 15. And then we added this component of being a high priority site to get the 15 as well. So that's kind of the history to that. And I'll also say that with only 16 years left in this TIF, it seems like a long time, but payback on these things is going to be more and more challenging as the years go by. You're going to have to create a lot of value in order to get that full payback. So even with the proposal ahead of us, 800,000, they may not get all that over the payback because they just may not have the value over that time frame as well. So as the years go by, we're going to be more and more challenged to pay back this entire incentive, unless we want to change the policy to go to something other than pay-as-you-go, which I don't think the board or this board would really be in favor of.
Yeah, I don't think we're talking about changing the structure of it. The pay-as-you-go is a nice model that reduces our risk.
Yes.
And you do bring up a good point. Even the one that we're not talking about now, that we'll talk about later, the formula contemplates a higher number, but it's truncated by the ability to pay it back in the time that's remaining in the TIF. There's not that many years left. 16 years sounds like a long time, but it's not that long because this all gets paid out over time. So we can approve it as written. We can amend it at any time if we want to change it in the future, or if we want to add other sites. I just think after everything we've been through, it'd be a shame to do nothing and have largely the same policy we have now. But that's not for me to decide unless there's a tie. Alderman Bach.
Was I correct? I mean, the reading, the Economic Development Board tossed this around, and was there 8 or 9 members on there, and did they approve this unanimously for approval? Or what was that discussion? Is that they're okay with this?
Well, they approved it, recommended it to us. I can't recall if it was unanimous.
Yeah, in the report it was 8-0. Yeah, 4. Yes.
On the proposed policy came through them as well, so they've
Yeah, I was speaking to the policy. I wasn't speaking to the specific incentive.
Yeah. I believe they recommended the other thing as well,
Yes.
that we're not talking about. Any other questions, perhaps, or a motion?
I move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further comments, questions? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Alderman Strelchak,
No.
Alderman Talaco,
Aye.
Alderman Meyer,
Aye.
Alderman Hancher,
Aye.
Alderman Bach,
Aye.
Alderman Parrish,
No.
Alderman Schneider,
Aye.
Alderman Gebhardt,
Aye.
and Mayor Nurbin.
Aye. That gets recommended onto the council. Next, we have a discussion item, City of Mequon 2022 to 2025 IT Strategic Plan Update. So Assistant Administrator Schoeneman's going to give us an overview. I will mention we also received a confidential memo in regards to this item too. We're not going to talk about the confidential portion here. If there's interest in going deeper on any of that, let me know after the meeting and we can schedule a closed session item for next month or the month thereafter to pull on that thread a little more. But for the rest of it, take it away, Justin.
Thank you. I'll do my best to be brief. I know that time is ticking on our committee of the whole clock. As stated in the memo, the IT division transitioned to the city administrator's office to be one of our divisions back in 2020 as part of change that started occurring with longtime finance director Tom Watson retiring, Director Krieger coming in for a bit, and we moved IT to admin since all departments heavily use IT resources nowadays versus back in the day when it was largely your finance department. And as a part of that transition, we brought Avero advisors on board to tell us the good, the bad, the ugly, whatever we need to know about where our current state to help us develop a plan so we can strategically move forward and advance the organization's IT resources in a best manner possible. And that process took several months from meeting stakeholders, consultants, departments, and the generated a report that was ultimately linked into tonight's agenda. And it's been our kind of our springboard since. That was the driving force behind switching us from a part-time IT contracted service provider to a full-time IT manager. That was Jeff Crawford at the time. He got opportunity to go somewhere else, and this year in June we brought Matt Fortini on board as our new IT manager. If you haven't had opportunity to work with him, please feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to help, and I'm sure Matt will come to a future meeting. And we also have public safety IT specialist Pat, who's actually behind the scenes right now doing the videography work for us. And across our team, plus other departments who are all lending hands, in some cases leading the charge, we've hit some good accomplishments over the last couple years. And a lot of the work can be kind of classified as foundational work or work that builds the base for us to do more, meet our customers both internally and externally where they're looking for us to be on the IT front. We've done everything from redesigning our entire network, replacing aged equipment that couldn't support the modern day resources, bandwidth needed to deal with cloud systems, for instance, to deactivating 9 physical servers and replacing 15 plus dated PCs here at City Hall alone. And on top of that, we ran into projects that weren't necessarily listed in the strategic plan, but things we needed to hit. We were able to redo the city's print services contract, consolidate it all into one, and save $15,000 a year going forward. We've had service issues with our past phone provider, where we would lose connectivity at no fault of our resources, but the provider. And we're able to get out of that contract and switch to a new one, and we're doing that same thing with one of our internet providers now. And we've rolled out some additional non-public safety help desk resources, so everyone's not coming to the door looking for the IT manager to help them, but have the ability to reach out to a help desk during normal business hours. On top of that, a big lift that we did was migrating the city's primary software outside of Microsoft, the Munis Tyler Tech software to the cloud. That was originally a project of Vero, scoped for 3 years. We did it in 10 months because we had no choice, because our current version was going to be unsupported, and that's where all our financials go through, so we needed to be on the latest and greatest. So we pushed it as fast as we can, which is partially why we aren't following the IT strategic plan to T on the timing, but we're adapting to the realities we kind of face as we're going down the list. We've replaced primary systems at City Hall that kind of serve like your core business practices, from cashiering systems and accounts payable, hardware in our other departments as well. The community pool got attention. It got Wi-Fi, a new ID maker, audio video upgrades, to conference rooms getting upgrades, or installations they've never had to allow us to work with residents and contractors and staff meetings more efficiently, to oodles of software updates that have been across the department that haven't been able to been done. We've now started to do, so staff are kind of getting out of those buggy issues you get with old software and are more efficient and able to help move forward. So that's just a quick highlight of some of the larger projects. There's a bunch more we've done to continue to advance the organization, and some of the ones that are currently in motion are in-person credit card processing. Finance is the lead, and IT is along the way to help. The clerk's office is pushing forward with digital business licensing, and that'll be launching here in the next couple of months as well. We have an e-signature tool, so we can stop pushing as much paper around. Staff have been trained on it, but we need to do another rollout to make sure departments know what it is, and they can start to leverage that resource. We're going to be rolling out a IT resource center, knowledge base, and a new way to track tickets and requests from big to small, so we can understand what our users need and also prioritize better. And we're helping human resources launch an employee self-service module, so all those basic needs, change of address, approving policies and forms, all be done digitally. And we're helping the police department right now with a server project. So those are some of the projects on the larger side that are in motion. And once we get done with those, we're already looking towards next year. And there's some big projects that we know we have to do, amongst others. Some of those big projects include the land management system, the acquisition. We have to switch to a .gov instead of a .wi.us, and that's a requirement by the federal government. And so they're going to give us a deadline. We just got to make sure we're in advance of that deadline. And Public Works is our next large department to be on the review of their IT resources for fleet and asset management to a parks recreation system, so for reservations like pavilions, for instance. So those are some of the things we have slated for 2024. There's a lot more in the strategic plan that we're going to continue to grab and work through, and I think we've made some good headway. The study itself calls for a team of 3 full-timers, and we're doing it with a fraction thereof, and we're still making decent headway. So I think we're doing well with our resources, and there's much to go. So without any further ado, I'm happy to yield for questions and thoughts.
Sorry, I muted myself again. Any questions from the committee? Good update. Nice to know, get a pulse check on where we're at and get a look ahead for 2024. Seeing any questions? Going once, going twice? Seeing none, let's move right along. We can, is everyone comfortable skipping the planning calendar? If we need to amend that, just let me know. We'll get it on a future calendar. And is there a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're
Aye.
adjourned. We'll immediately reconvene as the Sewer Utility District Commission. And quite a bit more people showed up, so let's call the roll again.
Commissioner Strelchuk,
Here.
Commissioner Telacco, Commissioner Meyer, Commissioner Hancher, Commissioner Bach,
Here.
Commissioner Parrish,
Here.
Commissioner Schneider, here, Commissioner Gebhardt,
Here.
and Commissioner Nerben.
Here. First up is approval of the meeting minutes from October 30th.
Move approval.
Motion and a second. Any comments or corrections? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are approved. Next up, ordinances. Ordinance 2023-1656. Ordinance appropriating necessary funds for the City of Mequon Sewer Utility District for the year 2024 for capital charge payments to the Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewerage District and the City of Mequon capital debt service requirements. Is there a motion or a second available?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments from staff? We looked at this pretty heavily just a short time ago. This is here for final consideration as the Sewer Utility District Commission. Hearing and seeing none. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Strelchek,
Aye.
Commissioner Slacko, Commissioner Meyer, Commissioner Hancher,
Aye.
Commissioner Bach,
Aye.
Commissioner Parrish,
Aye.
Commissioner Schneider,
Aye.
Commissioner Gebhardt,
Aye.
and Commissioner Nervin.
Aye. That ordinance passes. Resolutions. Resolution 4093, a resolution ratifying an estimated final contract amount of $55,000 with SEH of Sheboygan, Wisconsin for inspection services in connection with the Tamerlane Drive Lift Station O parallel sanitary force main and pump replacement projects.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions for staff? Pretty straightforward. Hearing and seeing none, please also call the roll.
Commissioner Strelchek,
Aye.
Commissioner Slacko, Commissioner Meyer, Commissioner Hancher,
Aye.
Commissioner Bach,
Aye.
Commissioner Parrish,
Aye.
Commissioner Schneider,
Aye.
Commissioner Gebhardt,
Aye.
Commissioner Nervin.
Aye. And that resolution passes. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? We are adjourned as the Sewer Utility District Commission. We'll immediately roll right into the Common Council. We'll call the meeting to order and let's do the pledge. First up, we have, we will convene as the Appropriations Committee. And, pardon? I guess we should call the roll. Let's call the roll as Appropriations Committee.
Alderman Strelchuk,
Here.
Alderman Talako, Alderman Meyer, Alderman Hancher,
Here.
Alderman Bach,
Here.
Alderman Parrish,
Here.
Alderman Schneider,
Here.
Alderman Gebhardt,
Here.
and Mayor Nervin.
Here. We need to do but one thing, and that is to approve the Appropriation Committee meeting minutes of October 9th.
Move approval.
Motion and a second. Any comments or corrections on those minutes? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? And the minutes are approved. We will now reconvene as the Common Council. And we have a public hearing item, Ordinance 2023-1655, an ordinance adopting the annual budget and appropriating funds for the operation of the government and administration of the City of Mequon for the year 2024 and levying for the same. This was recommended by the Appropriations Committee on October 9th and is a first reading. Is there a motion to go into public hearing?
So moved.
Motion and a second. Online. Please call the roll.
Alderman Talako,
Oh, aye. Oh, yeah, we're moving to go into public hearing. Sorry. This is a very procedural meeting. It's strap in. It's going to be wild.
Alderman Meyer, Alderman Hancher,
Aye.
Alderman Bach,
Aye.
Alderman Parrish,
Aye.
Alderman Schneider,
Aye.
Alderman Gebhardt,
Aye.
Alderman Strelchuk.
Aye.
All right, we are now in public hearing. Does anyone from the public wish to speak on this item that's before us? Seeing none, is
Move
there a
to
motion
close public hearing.
There we go. Motion and a second. All in favor of closing public hearing, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? We are now back in session. Are we going to roll through these or take them up one at a time? All right. This is a first reading, but I think we may be looking for a suspension of the rules, possibly.
Well, on a resolution, there's no first reading. The resolutions can just be adopted as is. It's not till item C, the ordinance, that there would be a potential motion to suspend the rules.
Oh, it's the same. Okay, we had the public hearing. Okay. Thank you for that. I didn't see it appear before us twice there. All right, moving on. Consideration of resolutions and ordinances. First up is Resolution 4079, a resolution authorizing an exemption to the levy limit for charges for the Southern Ozaki Fire and Emergency Medical Services Department pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 66 Prin 0602 or .0602 Prin 3 Prin H for fiscal year 2024. There's a recommendation forthcoming from Public Works.
Public safety?
Public Safety, sorry, thank you.
Yep, Public Safety met this afternoon and unanimously approved Resolution 4079.
Thank you. Is there a motion or any questions?
Move to approve.
Second. Motion and a second. If there's any questions or comments, we can still entertain those. We did talk about this at Appropriations Committee, so it should be no surprise. We have a motion and a second. No further comments. All those in favor? This is roll call vote. It was budgetary, so please call the roll.
Alderman Meyer.
Aye.
Alderman Hancher.
Aye.
Alderman Bach.
Aye.
Alderman Parrish.
Aye.
Alderman Schneider.
Aye.
Alderman Gebhardt.
Aye.
Alderman Strelchak.
Aye.
Alderman Telako.
And that resolution is adopted. Resolution 4080, resolution approving the fiscal year 2024 operating and capital budgets for the Southern Ozaki Fire and Emergency Medical Services Department. There's a recommendation forthcoming from Public Safety this
Yep,
evening.
Public Safety again, this afternoon unanimously approved Resolution 4080.
Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Hearing or seeing none, please call the roll.
Alderman Hancher.
Aye.
Alderman Bach.
Aye.
Alderman Parrish.
Aye.
Alderman Schneider.
Aye.
Alderman Gebhardt.
Aye.
Alderman Strelchak.
Aye.
Alderman Telako. Alderman Meyer.
And that resolution is adopted. Moving on, Ordinance 2023-1655, an ordinance adopting the annual budget and appropriating funds for the operation of the government and administration of the City of Mequon for the year 2024 and levying for the same. This was recommended by Appropriations Committee on October 9th. And I guess this is the official first reading, not the public hearing.
Move to suspend the rules and take this up.
There's a
Today.
motion
Second.
and a second. All those in favor of suspending the rules, please say aye. Or do we need to do
Aye.
a roll
I think
call?
we may need to do a roll
Okay,
call.
let's do a roll call just to be safe.
Alderman Bach.
Aye.
Alderman Parrish.
Aye.
Alderman Schneider.
Aye.
Alderman Gebhardt.
Aye.
Alderman Strelchak.
Aye.
Alderman Telako. Alderman Meyer.
Aye.
Alderman Hancher.
Aye.
We have agreed to suspend the rules and take this matter up. Is there a motion on the ordinance before us?
Move to approve.
Move approval.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Alderman Parrish.
Aye.
Alderman Schneider.
Aye.
Alderman Gebhardt.
Aye.
Alderman Strelchak.
Aye.
Alderman Meyer. Alderman Hancher.
Aye.
Alderman Bach.
Aye.
And that ordinance is adopted. Moving on, we have personal appearances and public comment. So citizens wishing to address the council on any matter not on the agenda may do so at this time. If you desire to be heard on any agenda item, you may be heard when that item is considered. Please speak into the microphone at the podium. Time limit is 5 minutes. Is there anyone here this evening who wishes to speak on anything not on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on to public officials' reports. This is not so much a report as an introduction. We have several folks from WISDOT here to update us on the progress and future plans for the I-43 expansion project. So we'll ask them to come up. We have Jeff Stone from Kapoor, Bianca Clayton from WisDOT, Tony Keegan and Rachel Andrioli from HNTB Consulting. And they'll tell us about all the wonderful things we've been seeing along the east side of Mequon and give us a preview for 2024. And then we'll have a little dialogue about things.
Ladies, just be sure to push the green button or on the microphone so we can hear you. It's push to talk. Thank you.
Did it work? Okay. Hi, I'm Bianca Clayton. I'm here with WisDOT on behalf of Tom Erdman, the project manager who couldn't make it. And this is, Rachel, as you said, Rachel Andrioli with public involvement, Tony Keegan with our traffic team. And they are here to give you guys an update on how our I-43 North-South project's going.
Summary of what the schedule looks like. Obviously, we began construction in the middle of 2021 when we had some work zone prep project, widening some shoulders. And throughout 2022, we began the work along the north end segment, which was Highland to the north, and the county line Port Washington Road interchange segment. That segment just recently wrapped up with substantial completion. There's still a little bit of work happening in that area, but in general, that's pretty wrapped up. And we still have work happening south of Brown Deer Road, and more recently, the beginning of what I'm sure everybody here is very interested in is the Mequon interchange segment. So in the north end segment, we've this year been doing northbound and southbound freeway reconstruction, so paving new roadway in both directions. Obviously, we already did the southbound earlier this year. That's where all of the traffic currently is riding. And before the end of the year, we're hopeful to be able to move northbound onto the new northbound pavement. In the County C or Pioneer Road interchange, we have that new bridge being built. We have the southbound ramps done, which were reopened earlier this year. The northbound ramps and the bridge should be opening before the end of the year. And to the east of that, the park and ride will reopen. There was some work that was done near the railroad, so everything along Pioneer should be pretty close to reopening. There will also still be work happening at Highway 60 and Highland Road. So in the southbound direction earlier this year, we had closures at the Pioneer southbound ramps, and then we reopened those and then closed Highland and the 60 southbound entrance. The similar situation needs to happen yet in December with the northbound ramps, where we reopen Pioneer and close the other two. And the reason for that is we can't do the pavement on the freeway to connect to those ramps until they're closed, because there's really no way to get that done. So it should be a fairly short period of time, but that still needs to happen yet this year. And then we're still doing work over Lakefield Road, so that's still closed. So the freeway, the northbound freeway that goes over Lakefield, there's a bridge there that just had girders set just a few weeks ago. A deck pour is planned for either the end of this week or early next week, depending upon weather. And they're hopeful to be able to reopen Lakefield yet sometime in December. So this is part from our Get Around Guide. We send one of those out approximately every month-ish. But it shows in general what traffic looks like right now, what's open and what's closed. And I know it's kind of hard to see on this slide, but if you get this Get Around Guide, we show what ramps are green as open and then red for closed, and we try to provide information when we close a ramp or a roadway as to when you can expect them to reopen. So everything that's shown on there is what I just discussed. All right, moving down then to the Mequon Road segment. Everybody is probably very interested to know about the utility work that's been causing all kinds of havoc over there. So there has been some, the lanes have had to move around because there's a lot of utility work that needs to happen prior to the actual project work happening. Right now, a lot of the project work that's happening is just on the freeway and just in the bridge area right under the freeway. But in the Port Washington Road intersection, a lot of that has been utility work. So anyone that drove through there today noticed that eastbound finally opened up to a bit. We still have a lane closed, but the utility that was working there long-term is gone, at least in that section. They're still working on Port Washington Road. We heard earlier today that hopefully by the end of this week or early next week, they'll be able to open those lanes northbound. So the through lane and the right lane on the south side of the intersection, so hopefully that should be able to reopen. They're still gonna have some work in the southbound area and in that northbound left lane because it's right in that median. So they have some of that still finishing up through the Thanksgiving timeframe, maybe even to early December. But after that, the utility work will mainly just have overnight impacts, which will be very helpful because that's why traffic keeps moving. It's really, depending upon the location where they need to do their work, they need to move around where their closures are. So hopefully what has been causing the trouble there recently and a little bit of confusion should be stabilizing. The closures are not going to go away because under the freeway on Mequon Road, we put a pier to build the new bridge in the middle of the road, and you can't reopen the lanes because we have a pier there now. So we're going to keep it to one lane under the bridge, basically until the project's done. So you're going to still see lane closures on Mequon Road. The good news is, though, is that it'll be much more stable. The closures you're going to see are not going to change continuously. It'll be like that for months, and then before another change happens, you'll have plenty of notification to know what's going to change and how you may want to adjust your routes. So in general, for the rest of this year, we're going to continue widening southbound in the median because that's in preparation to move northbound over to do a crossover so we can rebuild the northbound roadway over the Mequon interchange area. So that's the rest of this year. I just talked about those long-term lane closures on Mequon Road, and then early next year, when we move northbound over to the southbound side of the road, that will require closing those northbound ramps. So it's not quite scheduled when that's going to happen. It all depends upon weather and the production of the contractor for the time being. So again, this is from our Get Around Guide, just a snapshot of what everything looks like right now and how long we expect the impacts to be in place. And that's a look of what it will look like when it's done. So this is mid-2025. We expect to be most substantially complete, possibly finishing up landscaping, in middle to late of that year, but really the vast majority of the work should be complete by then. All right, moving on to Rachel.
As Tony mentioned earlier, the Port Washington Road and County Line interchange segment of this project was substantially completed earlier this year, and it was staged to be completed prior to the Mequon interchange to alleviate some of the congestion that the work is causing. What was once a partial interchange is now a full-service interchange with the northbound exit shifting north and the newly constructed northbound entrance off of Catherine Drive that you see in the picture there, as well as the southbound exit at Port Washington. The southbound entrance at County Line was reconstructed, but it was not relocated. It remains in its existing condition. The south end segment, like Tony mentioned, spans from just north of Brown Deer Road to just north of Silver Spring. We began this year by constructing the southbound temporary widening to do the same thing that we're going to do at Mequon, which is shift all the traffic over onto the southbound side while we reconstructed the northbound freeway. We are reconstructing the Brown Deer interchange into a diverging diamond interchange. It remains open throughout construction, and we have had ramp closures, but they haven't been concurrent with the Good Hope ramp closures. We're also reconstructing the Good Hope interchange, which also remains open throughout construction, and those northbound ramps at Good Hope have been closed since spring of this year and are scheduled to reopen at the end of this year. And this is, again, from our Get Around Guide, just shows the current configuration. All the movements at the Brown Deer interchange are currently available, and aside from the eastbound left turn onto northbound I-43, that has been restricted because of, and you'll see in a couple slides, the way that we're constructing the diverging diamond, we need additional space to construct that. Again, the Good Hope ramps have been closed and will remain closed through the end of this year. As part of this project, we're also constructing local roads in Glendale, and we're relocating that Union Pacific Railroad bridge over I-43. We're shifting that just to the north, so Jean Nicolay Road from Bender to Fairfield Court has been closed for the majority of this year,
and is scheduled to reopen at the end of this year. We also have had some work on Port Washington between Bender and Coventry, widening that to 4 lanes. This is just a rendering of the Good Hope Road interchange, what it'll look like in its final configuration. We just did a traffic switch over the weekend where we've placed east and westbound traffic onto new concrete, so you can begin to see when you're driving what it'll kind of look like in the final condition. And this is the diverging diamond interchange that'll be constructed at Brown Deer Road. So you can see that while maintaining traffic and constructing at the same time, it does come with its challenges. So movements may be restricted. And again, when we go to reconstruct those northbound ramps next year, they will be closed for a time. Our transportation management, or TMP, it's our goal in any construction project to maintain safety and mobility through the work zones. And we do that through our TMP. We meet weekly. Our team is constantly evaluating ways to keep traffic moving through the work zones and evaluating the detour and alternate routes and how traffic is operating through those areas. We meet weekly with stakeholders and emergency responders to talk about upcoming closures and impacts. And we aim to influence the proper route choice for motorists. It's always our goal for motorists to have no surprises on their route to and from work. We do that through our project website. We send out email updates, newsletters, the Get Around guide that we've referenced several times. We also are available to have on-site meetings with stakeholders and businesses to address any concerns. And there's one direct point of contact. My phone number is, an email is almost on every piece that goes out. So. The next slide is just our project website. You'll see that we've broken down updates into each segment of the project. So if you're looking for a specific area, you don't have to dig through every update. You can select the area that you're interested in and look for the updates there. It also has a weekly construction forecast, our Get Around guide that we update monthly, and also some project pictures that are nice to look at. Are there any questions?
Thank you for the overview. Turn it back to the council here. I see Alderman Bach signaling me. I'm sure he's got some comments on Highland Road.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for all your good work on this. I mean, the logistical challenges here are, unbelievable. But, overall, I think it's great. If people would slow down a little bit, it'd probably be even better. But actually, Google Maps have been super helpful. I have to use them now anytime when I go anywhere in the city because it changes so fast. But they have been pretty accurate. So, because things change so quickly. But as the mayor said, I represent the 5th district, which includes the Highland interchange, and so I lived in Mequon for 30 years. We've been hearing about that interchange for at least 25 years, and so it finally happened. And overall, it's terrific. You don't call City Hall when the streets are plowed. I'm sure it's probably the same with you. You don't probably hear as many of the good things. You always hear the negative things. So I wanted to at least say some of those positive things, but. For the last, so I'm just going to move just on some suggestions because that area, that Highland interchange, probably the number one email and issues that I've received, and they've been friendly suggestions, has been that area, that interchange, and it just seems it needs to be kind of cleaned up a little bit. And I know that there's still work going on there because I know the northbound exit has been extended and probably for that paving. But it just seems that there's some things that could be cleaned up. Some of the things that I've heard is here just a couple of comments. That 3-way stop on Highland seems to be like the major concern. So there's confusion going east. So when you come out of Concordia there, many people cannot see the little stop sign that's kind of floating around over there. So one day, I'm a cyclist and I was there on my bike and I stopped and I saw like 3 or 4 people just go through that stop sign. Not because they just want to go through the stop sign, just because they didn't see it. It was kind of the same with that stop sign on the northbound exit ramp. It used to be before that little concrete wall, in which you can't see over, and I think they moved that back now. So that little concrete wall, when you're coming off that northbound ramp, it's hard to see to the west because it's pretty tall. So you have to really move forward to look to see that. So I'm not sure how that could be fixed. Also, I don't know if you've noticed that you can't see it now because of that extended off ramp, but before that was there at about 4 o'clock. Because of that stop sign, that traffic gets backed up pretty far, almost close to that to I-43. So for about an hour there, it's mostly just because of that stop sign, that's pretty backed up. So I don't know, it's probably expensive to put kind of a stoplight at the top there, but it seems like something is needed. And it's challenging for the cyclists. They did a great job on Port Road. So that's a huge improvement connecting to Catherine. So with that bike lane, but that Highland Road, is kind of a major connection to Lakeshore Drive for cyclists, and Highland is terrible already for biking. But now with that interchange, it's kind of tricky on there. I noticed that there's a sign on the exit ramp on County Line. There's a cycling warning sign on the exit ramp there. Somebody put up. I didn't see one on this exit ramp, but I know that you got a lot of bicyclists coming across there. At the same, my last comment is the same, thing. Here I just said a sign, but the comment that again I received 2 emails this week, but from the business owner there who owns the golf course, who happens to live over there and drives that probably 5 or 10 times a day. His comment was, it just seems to be sensory overload in that little area. There are signs everywhere. And so is that causing some of the confusion? So, some cleanup there. It seems like there's still work. It just seems like there's some unfinished business, and it could be even made better to, improve some of that flow and safety. Just my comments.
Lots of great comments, and that's actually something we were chatting about the other day that I did not bring up earlier. So the interchange is not complete yet. So by design, there has to be another pavement lift that needs to happen on Highland Road. So there are a lot of retaining walls that were built to put that ramp in there, the northbound exit and the northbound entrance, with the railroad being there. So a lot of dirt that had to go in, get compacted, let it settle, put more on. And so we're waiting a year at least. Now we're kind of at the point where we're at a year. It's probably a little bit late for paving. So probably early next year, we have to come back in yet and put on a final layer of asphalt. So that's coming yet. A lot of the signs that you see out there, which is why you're seeing them move, are still temporary. I have been asking the project team to see if there's more that can be done to get the permanent signs in as much as possible. Part of the problem is that they're still waiting on, because we don't have the permanent pavement in yet, they haven't got some of they finished a lot of the curbing in some spots just because they don't want it to get damaged with snow plows and things like that. So they try to leave some things off on purpose, but it's by design that there are some things that still need to happen. But to try to get those signs permanently mounted would be preferable, because then they obviously won't move and they'll be all in the right spot and they're not going to be adjusting in the wind. So we have had some complaints about the amount of traffic and drivers not following the stop signs. You're not stopping at the stop bar and things like that. So completely understandable. So we have been monitoring that as much as we can and try to adjust things when we can. But I guess something to remember is that this interchange was built, as Rachel said, with the Port Washington Road County Line interchange, in anticipation that there's going to be a lot of other traffic needing to use that area as a relief route. So obviously, stop signs aren't ideal, but considering the amount of traffic we're seeing backups for a small period of time during certain parts of the construction. Putting up temporary signals, it was identified not to be feasible during this particular session, and that with the amount of detour traffic we're seeing, it should just manage. once all the construction is done and we're in a permanent condition, it'll look very similar, I think, to the old Highland Road with a little additional traffic, obviously, for the ramps that are there. But it should be able to manage the amount of traffic that you'll see once Pioneer is open, once Highland is fully open, and obviously, a little bit later once Mequon Road is open. But we'll have to continue to monitor it. In general, just trying to get drivers to stop when they're supposed to stop is going to be our number one goal. So hopefully that answers some of your questions.
Yeah, no, I mean, thank you. I appreciate that. And, if you ever, as you're working on that, or you need any input or any suggestions, because I've received
we love suggestions.
Yeah, I'm
We
happy
can't
to,
be
I'm happy to,
everywhere,
as that goes on,
we're
would
more
be.
than happy to get comments.
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that. Yeah, my number one concern with that is just sight lines coming around the corners with the off ramps. It's very difficult unless I'm in my pickup truck and I can see over the concrete walls. If you're in a sedan, you're basically blind. You have to stop and then pull out farther, and then that creates some confusion because people think you're going, but you're really just being cautious and pulling forward. There's a lot of people starting and stopping because they don't know who's going to go. It's quite confusing. Any other comments? Alderwoman Schneider.
Thank you so much. This project has been an enormous one, and you must be exhausted mid-portion. But I just wanted to say that my district is sort of down by County Line and Port Washington Road, and people are very happy with the northbound ramp and the way that's designed, and they find it much safer and more comfortable with some of the traffic lights. I have received a little bit of feedback from the other going southbound ramp in that area. Again, it's an issue with the stop sign, and I don't know what else you can do to fix this, because I noticed you have an alert that there's a stop sign coming, but yet people are telling me who live there that people do not stop at that stop sign. And I talked to the police chief, and I actually gave some feedback to WISDOT about it, but I'm not certain that there's an easy remedy for that, and it may just be that people have to get accustomed with this new finding of a stop sign there. But overall, I really appreciate it. And I just had just my own question. What are the constraints with weather as the temperatures drop? You mentioned asphalt, and I'm just curious because there's a lot of things that are very, very near completion as I drive, and I'm just curious about what your constraints are as the temperature drops.
So you can pour concrete. You just need, if it gets too cold, you need blankets and things like that. The concrete generates its own heat. But the bigger restriction is asphalt. Asphalt plants start to close down. I think we're expecting maybe early December 6th? November 26th is when the asphalt plants start to close. So if it's warmer, they could reopen, but it's a huge cost for them to reopen a plant once it's been closed. So, but we can do concrete. There are a lot of other things you can do in the winter, like demolition, excavations, things like that. But yeah, the paving becomes a bigger concern. So,
thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Alderman Parrish.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you to the DOT crew for being here. Just to reiterate, very impressive project. To focus on something different, I represent the west side of Port Washington Road, essentially the retail corridor centered around Mequon Road. And certainly everyone's wondering, when's Mequon Road going to close? And that's kind of the big one. I think everyone's been excited, worried about all that stuff combined. So my concern is more relative to there's been quite a few lanes closed down on Port Washington Road, especially in front of our Mequon Pavilions retail center. And it's only going to get worse when Mequon Road is, no? I'll pause. What's going to happen?
So the Mequon Interchange reconstruction project is mainly from Port Washington Road to the railroad tracks, and then of course the freeway above it. So the main work that's happening with the project at the Port Washington Road Mequon intersection is signals. And then the east leg of that will be completely reconstructed. But the utility work that's happening right now is all of the rerouting they've done because of what they had to do to the east, as well as some other things that they needed to get to anyway. So that, as I said, I just heard, and I've been asking them at weekly, knowing that Thanksgiving is coming and shopping season is coming, and The businesses will be really excited if that could reopen. So they're telling me by the end of this week they're hoping to be able to reopen those northbound lanes, but definitely by Thanksgiving.
Okay. So throughout the duration of the project, all the lanes,
Yes.
north and south on Port
Yes.
Washington Road
The-
will be open.
Yep, the biggest reason
Great
why we
news.
would have lanes closed west of the, within that intersection on the west side is the lane that you're seeing right now west of Port Washington Road going eastbound. We've closed the lane, but that's because you have 2 through lanes coming through, and you need to have 1 through lane going under the bridge. But it's basically a traffic control reason, not because we're reconstructing. So hopefully, I see your smile, so hopefully that's a good
No, I'm
answer.
pleased you're getting into the details, and I just appreciate
Yeah.
that update. And
Yeah.
thanks again for being here.
Definitely.
Any other comments from the right side here? I tend to look left more often. I don't want to neglect you guys. We had a number of other things we talked about. Will and I met with them on Friday to kind of give them a look ahead. I don't know if aldermans in District 7 and 8 are hearing about this, but there was a couple of accidents, people trying to get on the northbound ramp at County Line Road by Catherine Drive. One motorcyclist overshot the on-ramp and just plowed into the property to the north, and we actually had a car versus house situation in that same area maybe a week or two later. So we discussed maybe finding ways to draw more attention to the fact you actually have to turn left to get on the freeway. I think that's where the stop sign was you were talking about, Alderwoman Schneider. I've come close to missing that one myself, and I'm looking for it. I think it's just getting used to it. Then we talked about a number of other areas, like the stop sign on the east side of the freeway interchange at County Line Road, where you're coming from Port Washington Road onto Port Washington Lane. There's a stop sign there, but if you stop, you can barely turn your neck far enough to look backwards. It's very awkward, and it's been a source of a couple of email inquiries I've gotten. And then there was I think the last thing we talked about was remember we all voted to add, well, not all of us voted for, but a unanimous number of us voted to add the traffic signals at Port Washington Road and County Line Road because of some safety concerns from the residents there. And one observation I had, which we talked about last Friday, was I'm almost certain that intersection would have been needed to be signalized anyway, given where the sound wall is. If there's just stop signs east and west, and you're traveling east, and you look to the south, you can't possibly see down the road far enough because of where the sound wall was. So we talked about them looking into the sight lines that would have been created there, and exploring the possibility of maybe trying to get us some of our money back that we invested. I wasn't given a lot of hope, but we're exploring what we can do there, because I'm sure we would have created a hazard there. Much like I'm concerned we may have created some small hazards on the county or the Highland Road interchange with some of the sight lines. It's awkward. It's not capable of holding high volumes of traffic very well. That's why you see it so long to clear the on-ramp or the off-ramp getting off. It's difficult to maneuver. So we're going to continue to monitor it and have conversations about that. But don't hold your breath, but we're trying. Any other comments from anyone on the council? Thank you for your update. It is, it's like 95% great stuff, and there's a few little pain points. It has been impressive to see how fast the overall project's been going, and I'm amazed every day when I drive by and see what's done. It's clear you guys are on it and on schedule, and you guys want it done as bad as we do, I'm sure, because you're living it every day. So thank you for everything you're doing, and we'll see you again soon for another update.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have just one more public officials report. It's a proclamation proclaiming tomorrow America Recycles Day. So here goes. The City of Mequon recognizes the importance of protecting and preserving our natural resources and adopting conscientious habits that will improve our daily lives and bring about a cleaner, safer, and more sustainable environment. The average American discards 7.5 pounds of garbage every day. Although there has been a significant increase in the amount of recycling in Mequon to date, We must continue to focus on other initiatives such as waste reduction, composting, the reuse of products and materials, and purchasing recycled products. To focus the nation's attention on the importance of recycling, businesses, industries, government agencies, nonprofit organizations, schools, and individuals have joined together to celebrate America Recycles Day 2023 and are encouraging their employees, customers, membership, and all citizens to pledge to buy more recycled content products as an environmentally efficient and economically smart habit. It is important that all Mequon residents and businesses become involved in recycling activities to learn more about the many recycled and recyclable products available to them as consumers. It is fitting for the city of Mequon to celebrate America Recycles Day 2023 and take action by educating citizens about the recycling options available in our community. Accordingly, I, Andy Nurbin, Mayor of the City of Mequon, on behalf of all citizens of the City of Mequon, proclaim November 15th, 2023 to be America Recycles Day, and I encourage all residents to recognize the importance of recycling. That's all I've got. Mr. City Administrator, do you have a couple of announcements?
Mayor, I do not have a report this evening. Thank you.
I thought of one additional item, and it's happening tomorrow. The City of Mequon and the Village of Thiensville were recognized with an award from the Wisconsin Policy Forum for an intergovernmental cooperation for the merger of the Thiensville and Mequon fire departments, creating the Southern Ozaki Fire and EMS Department. We'll be receiving that award tomorrow down at the Italian Community Center. It's a recognition of the hard work and effort that's gone into it and the successes we've enjoyed, but it's also a reminder of the work that's left to do and the high standards we need to uphold going forward as we complete the further phases of this merger and integrate what I think will be one day known as the best hybrid fire department with paid on-call staff and full-time professionals working side by side. So I'm looking forward to receiving the award tomorrow, as are many here. I think many of us are going down for that. But it's certainly something both communities should be proud of. And moving on, sorry for that. I just couldn't resist the opportunity to remind people that we won that. I'm quite proud of it. Next up, we have the consent agenda. I wrote down here somewhere we have 12 sets of minutes, meeting minutes, board minutes, or reports, and several resolutions. Is there a motion to approve all or some of the consent agenda?
Move to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? The consent agenda is approved. Next up, we have one ordinance first reading. Ordinance 2023-1656, an ordinance appropriating the necessary funds from the City of Mequon Sewer Utility District for the year 2024 for capital charge payments to the Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewerage District and City of Mequon capital debt service requirements. This was recommended earlier this evening by the Sewer Utility District Commission and is the first reading. But if there's a motion to suspend the rules.
Make a motion to suspend the rules, take up ordinance 2023-1656.
Second.
Motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Alderman Schneider,
Aye.
Alderman Gebhardt,
Aye.
Alderman Strelchak,
Aye.
Alderman Talaco, Alderman Meyer, Alderman Hancher,
Aye.
Alderman Bach,
Aye.
Alderman Parrott.
Aye.
We've officially suspended the rules. Is there a motion to take up the ordinance before us?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any conversation, discussion? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Alderman Gebhardt,
Aye.
Alderman Strelchak,
Aye.
Alderman Talaco, Alderman Meyer,
Aye.
Alderman Hancher,
Aye.
Alderman Bach,
Aye.
Alderman Parrish,
Aye.
Alderman Schneider.
Aye.
That ordinance is adopted and we can officially get tax bills out now. Next up, we have no additional ordinances to consider, so we'll move on into resolutions. Resolution 4084, a resolution adopting an incentive policy for tax increment financial districts 4 and 5 This was recommended by Economic Development Board on October 31st and was recommended earlier this evening by the Committee of the Whole.
Move approval.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further conversation we didn't have earlier at Committee of the Whole, or do we want to repeat anything? That's okay too. Hearing and seeing none, well, why don't we call the roll on this one?
Alderman Stralchuk,
Aye.
Alderman Talaco, Alderman Meyer,
Aye.
Alderman Hancher,
Aye.
Alderman Bach,
Aye.
Alderman Parrish,
No.
Alderman Schneider,
Aye.
Alderman Gebhardt.
Aye.
And that resolution passes. Next up is Resolution 4085, a resolution adopting the City of Mequon's annual fee schedule for fiscal year 2024. This was recommended earlier this evening by the Finance and Personnel Committee.
Move approval.
Motion and a second. Just for everyone watching, if anyone has any questions, we routinely review fees. It's been a couple years since the last time we didn't do a comprehensive review this year. We narrowed our view to the more commonly used fees or ones we thought might need adjustment that are a little out of whack. We tried to keep up with covering our internal cost of providing services. So there was a few nominal adjustments to the fee schedule, but nothing too earth-shattering to be honest. Not that it wasn't a lot of work, but just some modest adjustments to the amounts. Is there a motion and a second?
So moved.
So, there is, okay. Please call the roll.
Alderman Talaco, Alderman Meyer,
Aye.
Alderman Hancher,
Aye.
Alderman Bach,
Aye.
Alderman Parrish,
Aye.
Alderman Schneider,
Aye.
Alderman Gebhardt,
Aye.
and Alderman Stralchuk.
Aye.
And that resolution passes. On to Resolution 4086, a resolution amending the allocation of $2.552 million in funding received through the America Rescue Plan Act. This was recommended earlier this evening by the Finance and Personnel Committee. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion or comments or questions? Just re-solidifying our plans based off of conversations throughout the budgeting process and reflecting the current plan to expend those funds. Seeing no other discussion, this also is monetary, so please call the roll.
Alderman Meyer,
Aye.
Alderman Hancher,
Aye.
Alderman Bach,
Aye.
Alderman Parrish,
Aye.
Alderman Schneider,
Aye.
Alderman Gebhardt,
Aye.
Alderman Stralchuk, and Alderman Talaco.
And that resolution passes as well. On to Resolution 4087, a resolution adopting the 2024 pay plan for non-represented employees. This was also recommended earlier this evening by the Finance and Personnel Committee. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion from the council? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And those are approved. Next up, we have Resolution 4088, a resolution authorizing a development agreement with DJS Land Management LLC for a tax increment District 5 development incentive Tier 2 in the amount of an estimated amount of $808,500 for the property located at 10404 North Port Washington Road. This was recommended by the Economic Development Board on October 31st and recommended earlier this evening by the Finance and Personnel Committee.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Alderman Parrish.
Just to clarify, that wasn't 100% the motion. The motion was that, first of all, I voted no, so that was one thing. It was 2-1. Second of all, the motion was that it's entirely contingent on Planning Commission approving and being satisfied with the design, thereby ensuring that it meets the community's expectations versus what is currently proposed. And then I believe we had to clarify that it's approximately $800,000 incentive. That is not the incentive primarily being because it could ultimately be assessed for less, which I think it will be, and I think the increment will be probably less than the 800,000. So it's approximately that. That is not.
It's a good clarification. Yes, it was approved as amended with the terminology approximate or
Estimated was the word we were looking for.
estimated incentive. So you're correct. Per the development agreement, those numbers need to be verified when they are final, and a number could be reduced if it fails to achieve the projected assessed value that's proposed in the or contemplated in the funding formula that's there. So that is a estimated figure. And we did add the language that the Planning Commission must be satisfied with the building and site plan design. It has been, the Planning Commission approved the use, but not the building and site plan. They still are required to come back to get that approved, which I think might be on an agenda next month. Jack shaking his head. Yep, December 4th, so just in a couple weeks here. Thank you for those clarifications. Any other comments from anyone else? Let's call the roll on this item.
Alderman Hancher,
Aye.
Alderman Bach,
Aye.
Alderman Parrish,
No.
Alderman Schneider,
Aye.
Alderman Gebhardt,
Aye.
Alderman Stralchek,
No.
Alderman Telako,
No.
Alderman Meyer.
Aye.
3 to 5. And that resolution is approved. Resolution 4089, resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Mequon and the Frank L. Weinberg Library in connection with relocation of the District 3 polling site beginning in 2024. It's a recommendation forthcoming from Public Welfare.
Public Welfare took up Resolution 4089 and voted unanimously to approve, so I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments or questions from anyone on the council? Hearing or seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? That resolution is approved. Next, Resolution 4090, a resolution authorizing execution of a memorandum of understanding between the City of Mequon and the Wisconsin Elections Commission regarding the purchase and use of electronic poll books. Recommendation forthcoming by Public Welfare.
Public Welfare also took up Resolution 4090 and it was approved unanimously, and so I make a recommendation to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other comments? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
And Resolution 4090 is adopted. Resolution 4091, a resolution authorizing execution of a memorandum of understanding between the City of Mequon and the Village of Brown Deer in connection with completing design services for a portion of County Line Road in the amount of $33,600. Recommendation forthcoming from Public Works this evening.
This was recommended unanimously, and I move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Hearing or seeing none, please call the roll.
Alderman Bach,
Aye.
Alderman Parrish,
Aye.
Alderman Schneider,
Aye.
Alderman Gebhardt,
Aye.
Alderman Stralchuk,
Aye.
Alderman Telako,
Aye, but I think clarification needs to be made. That
Correct.
It's 50-50, and Mequon's actually paying a little more because we're doing one other little
We
portion
added on a
that's unique
project.
to us. Right.
Yeah. So what, does someone have the final amount? We're not approving the 33,600. That's the total cost? Okay. Alderwoman Telako did the math. Just say it again, just so. Okay, that's the amount that Mequon's paying for half the road program plus the drainage study we added on. That's odd to clarify at mid-vote, but if no one objects, we'll keep going.
Alderman Meyer,
Aye.
And Alderman Hancher.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Thank you. Resolution 4092, a resolution approving an agreement for the development of deployment of 8 automated license plate reader cameras with Flock Safety of Atlanta, Georgia, in the amount of $101,300 for the period from January 1st of 2024 through December 31st of 2028. Recommendation forthcoming from Public Safety.
Public Safety unanimously recommended approval for Resolution 4092, and I move approval this evening.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Alderman Parrish.
Aye.
Alderman Schneider.
Aye.
Alderman Gebhardt.
Aye.
Alderman Strelchak.
Aye.
Alderman Telako. Alderman Meyer.
Aye.
Alderman Hancher.
Aye.
Alderman Bach.
That resolution is adopted as well. Moving on, Resolution 4076, a resolution amending the Mequon Financial Policy Statement Number 3 for reserve requirements to include the City of Mequon Sewer Utility. This was recommended by the Sewer Utility District Commission on October 30th. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that passes as well. Next up is Resolution 4077, a resolution reassigning undesignated cash reserves of $1.95 million within the Sewer Utility Fund to one-time capital projects in accordance with the City of Mequon Financial Policy Statement Number 3 under reserve requirements. This was also recommended by the Sewer Utility District Commission on October 30th.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Alderman Schneider.
Aye.
Alderman Gebhardt.
Aye.
Alderman Strelchak.
Aye.
Alderman Telako. Alderman Meyer.
Aye.
Alderman Hancher.
Aye.
Alderman Bach.
Aye.
Alderman Parrish.
Aye.
And that item is approved. On to Resolution 4078, resolution adopting the fiscal year 2024 sanitary sewer utility budget and establishing a 2024 sanitary sewer user fee schedule, recommended by Sewer Utility District Commission on October 30th.
Move approval.
Motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, let's call the roll. This is the budget, so.
Alderman Gebhardt.
Aye.
Alderman Strelchak.
Aye.
Alderman Telako. Alderman Meyer.
Aye.
Alderman Hancher.
Aye.
Alderman Bach.
Aye.
Alderman Parrish.
Aye.
Alderman Schneider.
Aye.
That resolution is adopted as well. Our final resolution, Resolution 4093, a resolution ratifying an estimated final contract amount of $55,000 with SEH of Sheboygan, Wisconsin for inspection services in conjunction with the Tamerlane Drive Lift Station O parallel sanitary force main and pump replacement project. This was recommended earlier this evening by the Sewer Utility District Commission. Is there a motion?
I move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further comments or questions? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Alderman Strelchak.
Aye.
Alderman Telako. Alderman Meyer.
Aye.
Alderman Hancher.
Aye.
Alderman Bach.
Aye.
Alderman Parrish.
Aye.
Alderman Schneider.
Aye.
And Alderman Gebhardt.
Aye.
And that's approved as well. We have no specified unfinished business from prior meetings, no specified new business. We do have 2 potential closed session items. So here's the first one. The first one is aqueous film forming foam products, liability litigation, multiple district litigation number 218 MN 02873, 3M and DuPont PFAS litigation class action settlement. The Common Council may convene into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 19.85 Prin 1 Prin G for the purpose of conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning a strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved, and then may reconvene into open session to take such action as deemed necessary. Is there a motion to go into closed session for this item?
Move to go to closed session on this item.
Motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Alderman Talaco. Alderman Meyer.
Aye.
Alderman Hancher.
Aye.
Alderman Bach.
Aye.
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 Aye. So there's one down, one to go. The next one is request to transfer a reserve liquor license to the Village of Thiensville. The Common Council may convene into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 19.85 Prin 1 Prin E for the purpose of deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session, and then may reconvene into open session to take such action as deemed appropriate. Is there a motion to go into public, or not into, a very unpublic, into closed session on this item?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Question. Trying to find out how that, I know what it says here for competitive bargaining reasons, trying to find out how transferring a reserve liquor license is having to do with competition or bargaining.
Sure. In short, what the statute allows for a community to do that has received a request is to ascertain, obviously, A, whether they want to do it, but B, also whether or not, or what the cost of that transfer would be. That typically is something that is negotiated between the two communities, and a written agreement typically stems from that eventually once there's an agreement that's reached, if there's a decision to transfer that license.
I understand that there's that, but I just don't feel this falls underneath the closed session part of it, so I'll be bored.
Well, if we decide to sell one, we're going to negotiate on a price. We obviously don't want to advertise what our price is in open session. That hence the need for a closed session.
I mean, I suppose it could be possible to Alderman Mayer's point that this body could, in open session, consider whether or not it even wants to consider the request. And then if there is a decision that we want to consider the request, you could then go into closed session at that point to negotiate the terms that might be related to it.
We can certainly take it in two parts. Well, we'll hold off on half the question. We'll take up the first question in open session. So I guess the item that's before us there's been a request to sell or transfer through some means a reserve liquor license from Mequon to Thiensville, which is allowable under Wisconsin statutes. I guess the primary question is, do we want to sell one? We certainly can. Who wants to? Well, I guess Brian's got all the background. Brian.
I could speak to that real
Clerk?
quickly.
Okay. Madam Clerk, take it away.
Thank you. So, as stated, the petition from Thiensville was for one reserve license. There are regular licenses and reserve licenses. The main point between the two is the cost. A regular license is $610 per year, and a reserve license is $10,610. The city, back in 1997, through some legislature changes, was allotted 36 regular licenses and 3 reserve at the time. You gain 1 reserve with every 500 addition in population. And so at this point, we have 13 at our disposal, and 6 of those have been already issued to different municipalities. The list of those municipalities was in your confidential packet. A little bit of an update is last week we did have a business come forward. Ferrante's went out of business, so there was one potential regular license available, but that was applied for by Sendix. And there's one more reserve license that we anticipate being applied for, which would be another business here in Mequon. So should those 2 licenses be approved, that will leave us with 6 reserve licenses total for the city. At this time, Thiensville has 7 licenses with really, not a great ability to add to that because they're fully built out, and you gain 1 by population. And also, adding to that is you can only petition a city within 2 miles of your city, so they're very limited.
We've got 'em.
The transfer of the license would be permanent too.
Yeah, that's the catch, is the transfer's permanent. So once you let it go, you don't get it back. A little more clarification from.
Sure, I was just going to add that just because Thiensville has no regular licenses or reserve licenses, there are provisions in the statute that would still give them the opportunity to have licenses in certain circumstances. For example, the most common of which is a restaurant that has a certain number of seats. I think it's 300 off the top of my head. That makes a certain percentage of its revenue from food as opposed to like just a pure bar type situation. A couple other similar circumstances that they could potentially rely on to have licenses issued. Based on what we know to be the request here, we don't think any of those exceptions would qualify in this case for the particular applicant that they have seeking the license, but otherwise they would have some flexibility sometimes.
Any further questions? Alderman Gebhardt.
I'm still a bit unclear on what the difference is between a regular and a reserve license. I understand there's a difference in cost, but there shouldn't be a difference in benefit with that as well.
The only other difference between the two is a regular license you can move within the city. Say, for instance, your business moves across town, you can take it with you, and a reserve license is specific to that location. Other than that, the difference, unless Attorney Sadak wants to state otherwise, the only difference is the cost.
And that extra 10 grand is a one-time upfront cost, and then it's the same $610 after that. But if you moved across town, you'd have to pay the 10 grand again. Yeah, the state did it. It doesn't have to make sense. I see puzzled look on your face. Alderman Parrish.
Quick clarification, isn't this for Shawleys, and don't they already have a liquor license?
It's for Shelley's across the street, which is across the street. It's the smaller building across the street from the bigger building. Well, any other questions? Otherwise, we can just have a simple up-down vote if we're willing to contemplate parting with one.
Yeah, I'm just going to say, I think that, the size of Mequon and that, and the possibility of us having more need for our liquor licenses in the future, I'm not overwhelmed, but overrides the, would you like to be a good neighbor with the city or the town that you're dealing with? And you'd like to be that way, but those same type of requirements for us to get an extra one should we need it, having 300 seat capacity, stuff like that would be actually kind of tough for us to fill too, side of that area. So giving one away or selling one to a neighboring community inside that when we might need one in the future, I don't think that's a good thing for us to do.
Alderwoman Tlaco.
I'm in a line with Alderman Meyer. Oftentimes, a liquor license is the viability of a restaurant succeeding or not succeeding. I don't think at this point any financial gain would make a big impact on Mequon, but it would make a big impact on trying to get restaurants, businesses to be successful and to want to be here. So I am not in favor of this.
Alderman Parrish.
Yeah, I was originally inclined to to support our good neighbors in Thiensville, but I mean, just hearing that it's for a business that essentially already has one. We're just talking about a little building across the street. I don't know, it seems, I guess I'd be open to future requests, but for the purpose of the request at hand, and Shelley's is a wonderful business. They're so entrepreneurial and wonderful, but this doesn't necessarily seem to be in the best interest of our taxpayers. So.
Any further comments or questions, or should we call the question? All right, we will call the question. Why don't we do a roll call vote on this one? Just so it's not ambiguous. Please call the roll on whether or not we're, just a simple question of whether we're willing to part with one at this time. Oh, okay, we need a motion, I guess. So someone should make a motion. It's weird because the motion doesn't fit the
Motion to not approve.
motion to not approve transferring a license.
Second.
Motion and a second. Okay, now let's call the question. Thank you for that.
Alderman Strelchak,
Aye.
Alderman Tolaco, Alderman Meyer,
Aye.
Alderman Hancher,
Aye.
Alderman Bach,
Aye.
Alderman Parrish,
Aye.
Alderman Schneider,
Aye.
Alderman Gebhardt.
Aye.
All right, that'll conclude that item. We have already voted to go into closed session on the PFAS issue. I do not anticipate we'll return. Good night, everyone.